Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. I'm glad you made it. Look, for those that don't know, I was a accredited veteran service officer for many years. I've been in the benefits world for more than a decade prior to doing YouTube. So I understand the complexities of VA stuff, right? Claims, whether it's stuff with the VA or if it's benefits through the state, right? Through your state, various state benefits. And oftentimes how the state benefits marry up with the federal benefits. So I'm coming from at least some place of understanding, right? It's not just I, stumbled through my own claim and now I'm sharing stuff with you. No, that's not the case. Thousands and thousands and thousands of claims have ran through my office as an accredited rep. So all that to say is, look, one of the things that I heard often and was very concerning to me during that time frame was people thought that they did not qualify. They would self-segregate out of various benefits for a multitude of reasons. One, is there an age requirement? Is there a time limit? I've waited too long. I can't file a claim. I'm too old. They're not going to give me anything. Or I served during peacetime, or I wasn't in peacetime, but I never deployed to a combat area. All of these things seem to be hurdles in the front of us and really cause us to essentially self-segregate out of VA benefits or even state benefits. So that's what I wanted to jump into here and just share a little bit of this. And look, I get it. The majority of you watching this understand it and get it. This isn't necessarily for you, right? This is for our brothers and sisters who are walking behind us or those that have strayed off the path and we try to bring them back onto the path, right? So together, we can do this. I want to throw on a special thank you to, and I'm sorry, I'm going to mess up your name. Look, it's hard for me to say English words that are too long anyway. So I'm going to try my best. Fahad Mahadi, I think. Thank you so much for the super comment, super chat. Truly, I really appreciate it, Fahad. Appreciate you so very much. Thank you for the super comment, super chat. I really do appreciate it. All right, so let's jump into this. Is it too late? Is there an age limit? Is there an age requirement? Do you have to have had combat? And look, I get it. Again, most of you get all of this and you understand the answers. So front loaded? No, it's never too late. You're never too old. Regardless of the benefit, by the way, you could file for TDIU, Total Disability Individual Unemployability, and be 80 years old. You just can't keep working because of your service-connected condition, right? Or conditions. There's plenty of people out there who would qualify for different benefits, even though they think they may not. So whether you're at a certain age, whether you've waited a certain period of time, whether you served in peace or overseas in a deployed area of combat or not, it really doesn't matter. VA disability compensation is for all veterans who sign the dotted line and have not a dishonorable discharge. So that's an important thing to understand. And I think that what also happens here in our own self-segregating out of benefits minds that we have is a couple different things. One, we were conditioned through our time in service to really have that suck it up attitude, deal with it, move on, don't complain about it, pop some Motrin, drink some water, change your socks, move on. That, if you can hear, is Stan. That's my rooster. I was supposed to have 4 hens. I have 3 and Stan. So here I am. Anyway, so the idea of the rub some dirt on it aspect, I mean, that's great for when you're in, but then that kind of hangs on with us and it kind of turns into this don't complain about it thing. And we also have this mindset of somebody's always has it worse off than us, right? Somebody is always worse than we are, so we're not as deserving, right? So, for example, the reservist says, well, I was only reserves. The active duty person says, I was active duty, but I never deployed anywhere. Then it's the active duty person, I deployed, but I only went to wherever and wherever. It was never any combat. Then, I went to a combat area, but I was so far, in the rear, I didn't, see anything. Then it's, the story keeps going, right? Well, I was there, we had some mortars go off by us, but nothing too big. We were in some convoy, some IEDs went off, but nobody got injured in ours, or in my vehicle or whatever. And so it keeps going on until, well, who had it worse than you, right? That is not the mindset that you're supposed to have when we're looking at these various benefits that we've earned. You signed the dotted line and you got out with not a dishonorable discharge. You're going to be able to take advantage of some of these benefits. Now, another major mind hurdle, if you will, that we have is not a clear understanding of what the VA would consider a service-connected condition. We often, veterans as a whole, right? Not the majority of you watching, because the majority of you watching have been watching more than now, right? So you get it. This is for the new people that are just figuring this stuff out. One of the most, I think, detrimental mindsets that we can tend to have is, okay, cool, I served, I got out with an honorable discharge, and all right, so I can file for disability compensation. Well, one, I'm not really disabled, because we tend to think of the word disabled as loss of limb, that type of disability, right? Loss of use, loss of a limb, major physical disabilities. Now, there has been some, light shed on the hidden disabilities, right? Like PTSD, that type of stuff. But for the most part, we think of these major physical disabilities. And that's not what the VA is really saying. The VA is essentially saying any diagnosable condition that's chronic in nature or has some sort of residual effects, an ongoing problem, right? Now, the second piece to that is we tend to get wrapped around the axle with, well, I need to prove that the military caused my condition. Well, not necessarily, right? There's different aspects of disability compensation. So sure, you could have just to use something easy, you're a mechanic and you had, whatever, something up on a lift, fell off somehow, whatever. You're taking off a tire, fell off, landed on your leg funny, broke your leg. Now your leg healed, but it didn't heal right. And so now you have this residual effect. All right, so that situation, obviously, it was caused by your military service, and you would document that and highlight that and get all that information, and it's very clear and all of that. Sure, that's an easy one. The other aspects of service connection could be presumptive conditions. That's a great one, because presumptive conditions often don't manifest during your time in service. They manifest years later. So you served in a specific location during a specific time period, and then several years later, 10 years later, however many years later, all of a sudden you develop a condition that's on that presumptive list. Could be some sort of a cancer, could be hypertension if you are a Vietnam era veteran, could be sinusitis if you're a Gulf War, right? So these are presumptive conditions, and what happens is the VA says, well, we're just going to presume that condition was because of your time in service in that specific location, because of the specific things that you were around. So it's like a give me, right? They're basically stating that you're more likely to get that because of your period of service and where you served. So if you come down with that, we're just going to give that to you as a condition. So you're not really having to prove anything. They've already determined that that's there. Proving that the condition is service connected. Now, the other one, and this is the big one that I think a lot of people that are new to filing for disability compensation miss. And it's I don't know, I just happened to get this condition during my time in service, right? I can't really pinpoint that it was anything that I did in my service. It just showed up, right? So if you get diagnosed for a condition while you are in service for anything, for any reason, that's typically going to be service connectable. here's an example, right? You get diagnosed for sleep apnea while you're in service. Well, that's going to be service connectable. If you get diagnosed for migraines while you're in service, right? And you didn't have migraines when you joined. Now all of a sudden you started getting migraines. You can't pinpoint it to anything specific. You're not proving that the military caused it, but rather proving that it manifested during your time in service. So what the VA is looking for here is 3 different things. They're looking for when you file your claim. When you're filing your claim, they're looking for, well, prove to us that you served, right? Okay, well, here's my DD-214. What they're looking for is a couple different things. One, character of discharge, obviously. The other is the time frame, entry date, exit date. That creates a window of opportunity for direct service connections, okay? Window of opportunity. Think of your dates as a window of opportunity. So the second thing that they're going to ask for is, okay, well, do you have a condition? Because if you don't have a condition, we're not going to rate you, right? So you need to provide them proof of your condition. Do you have a diagnosis? Is that diagnosis a diagnosis of something that is chronic in nature or has some sort of residual effects? What's a residual effect? Well, you broke your arm healed, but now you can't extend it as far as you used to. You have a range of motion problem, and that is a residual effect of that broken arm, right? So what is kind of the parameters of that condition? Do you have the diagnosis? Great. That's the second piece. The third piece is the nexus. Not necessarily a Nexus Letter, okay? That's different. A Nexus Letter helps you to establish the nexus. The VA doesn't care how you do it. They just want a nexus. The nexus is the link between the condition, that diagnosed condition, and your time in service, that period of eligibility there, that window of opportunity. So what does that look like? Well, again, if you were diagnosed while you were in service, the date of that diagnosis falls in the middle of that window of opportunity. Well, guess what? That's your nexus. Look, I'm proving to you, VA, that my condition manifested during my time of service. So if you happen to go get diagnosed while you were in, mostly people didn't go get diagnosed. Mostly people only got diagnosed for more serious issues, right? Now, most rub some dirt on it, move on, get out, and now years have gone by, and it wasn't until 10 years after your service that you actually got diagnosed for migraines. But what did you do in the meantime? You went to the grocery store and you bought, bottles of Advil or Motrin or whatever, and aspirin, and that's what you did. So what did you do when you were in service? Well, you rubbed some dirt on it, you drank some water, you took some Motrin, you changed your socks, and you moved on. So you need to now, in this situation, just to explain it, is you would then need to build a bridge back from your diagnosis all the way back to your time in service. So you would do it with several different things, right? You would write a letter yourself explaining essentially why you have this big period of no real documentation. Well, when I was in, my corpsman, my medic, handsfuls of Motrin, that's what I did. I learned that behavior. I went to the grocery store. I bought it myself. I treated it with over-the-counter. I continued to do that through my adulthood up until recently when I actually had a conversation with my doctor that I've been chewing on Motrin every single day for however long, and it's probably not a good idea to keep doing that. And it was at that point that I got diagnosed and prescribed X for my migraines. Okay, cool. So you explain that in your letter. If you know anybody that you served with that could attest to their knowledge of you suffering with migraines, I mean, I know for me, I had migraines that, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 people would be aware of, where it was just like, wow, I was just no bueno for like a day and a half. So you could get them to write what's called buddy statements. So essentially a letter attesting to their knowledge of you suffering from migraines in this example during your time in service. Now, whether or not you have any buddies that could do that, that knew you while you were in service, You could also reach out to family members that obviously knew you during your time in service, right? So if they could attest to their knowledge, right? Maybe you showed up at home during leave one time and you had a bottle full of Motrin, and they were like, "What the heck do you have that bottle full of Motrin for? Is it really that bad?" So you never know what people remember, and they might be able to write something for you as well. Now, that's lay evidence is what that's called, those statements. You want to get some medical evidence too. This would be where the Nexus Letter comes into play. The Nexus Letter would then be used to help really tie it all together with all the rationale. They'd look at your MOS, time and service, all that stuff, and they'd write up a good Nexus Letter for you. They meaning your doctor. So you have some different options here. You can go to your medical provider, ask them to write you a Nexus Letter for your condition, tying it to your time and service, either that it manifested or was derived from your time and service in some way. So you can get your medical provider to do that. That's the ideal way. It would be the least expensive. If your VA or if your provider is a VA provider, they probably won't do it. If it's a private doctor, they may do it. You might need to help them along with it and explain to them what you're looking for. If they can't, won't, or don't do Nexus Letters, then you could reach out to AME, American Medical Experts. They're board certified doctors. They provide everything via telehealth. Their information's in the description and in the comments, so feel free to reach out to them if need be for any of that type of stuff, whether you need another diagnosis, whether you're connecting a secondary condition, whether you are looking for a DBQ to establish the severity of the condition to get the appropriate rating. Whatever it is, they can help you with that if you don't have any other way to do it. With that, thanks for watching. I appreciate you. Have a great one, and remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.